Hi, everybody. It's Pastor Brian here. I'm hopeful that you can still hear me. You can still hear what I'm saying, even though I have my mask on. So I want to do the youth devotion today, and I want to start by reading part of Psalm 24. Psalm 24, this is a liturgy for entering the temple. So this is what that means for those of you who are not comfortable with churchy words like liturgy. A liturgy would have been an order for worship, for going into the temple. So just like at the beginning of our church services, when we have confession, when we have corporate confession and forgiveness, they would have done something like this to enter, to go inside the temple. And the temple was their version of a church in the first century. And I'm sorry, this mask is riding on me as I talk here. So here it is. They would begin by remembering this: the earth is the Lord's, and all that is in it, the world and those who live in it, for he has founded it on seas and established it on the rivers. Those are the first two verses. And right there it starts: the earth is the Lord's, and all that is in it. So everything, it begins by acknowledging everything in this world belongs to God. So, I want to talk about that today because that's a big reason why I'm wearing the mask on this video. Because right now, those of you, kids, parents, everybody, we're supposed to be wearing these when we're outside, when we're in the midst of people, when we're shopping, when we're looking for groceries, all those kinds of things. We're supposed to be wearing these. That particular psalm begins by acknowledging that everything in the earth belongs to God, not us. We might talk about owning different things, but in reality, everything that we have belongs to God. You're not supposed to touch your mask this much, by the way, but I don't usually talk that much when I wear this. So, if everything belongs to God, we need to take care of what God has given us. So one way we're taking care of the world right now is by doing things like this, by wearing things like these masks. And they might be uncomfortable. I have to admit, this is not the most comfortable thing. They might be inconvenient. Some of us might have a little more difficulty breathing in them. And they make different kinds for people like that as well. They present their challenges, but we do this for stewardship. And stewardship is the word that we use in the church when we talk about caring for what God has given us. To be a steward, S-T-E-W-A-R-D, to be a steward, well, it's a word that means somebody who is given the job of caring for something. So maybe you've been given the job of caring for what's in your room. Maybe you've been given the job for caring part of what's in your house. If you have a pet, maybe you've been given by your parents the job of caring for that pet, of feeding it and taking it for walks and loving that pet too. That's part of stewardship, loving this creation that God has given us. And so this is stewardship right now because this is taking care of other people in case we happen to have the coronavirus, so that we don't spread it to other people, that it stays, so that when we cough, if we do any kind of things that get saliva out of us, that it stays in the mask and we don't spread it to other people. This is really starting to get frustrating. But you got to keep with it. You got to keep with it. It looks weird, right, to see everybody outside with a mask on, to see a lot of people outside. It looks strange. It might even look a little intimidating or scary. But we know that the people behind these masks are people we know and love. They're people with friendly faces, even if they're hidden right now. They're people who may be sick and don't know it. They're people who may have some of the other kind of illnesses that make it harder if you get the coronavirus. People who have things like blood pressure problems and breathing issues and all of those kinds of things. But we wear the mask to take care of them. It's part of why we do this. We take care of them, and in doing so, we take care of God's creation. So I want you guys to think about that, if you would, in the next coming days and weeks. As you go outside, if you're if you're a young child, you probably shouldn't be in a store, but sometimes you end up there anyway. Make sure that not only that you wear these masks, but that you talk to your parents and make sure that they're doing their part too. They might be uncomfortable. They might be inconvenient. They might annoy us, but we're still given that job to take care of others and take care of everything that we have, because that's the thing. The things that we own, they're not really ours. God has given us the ability to own them. God has given us the grace and the providence to have what we have. And when we think about things that way, everything we have really is just kind of on loan. I want to show you something here. This is a record that I have. This is the best of the doobies. Probably most of you who are under the age of 20 have no idea who the Doobie Brothers are. And maybe some of you who are older who are watching this video are thinking, yes, I've heard them. And if you listen to any classic rock radio station, you're going to hear some of the songs on this. Listen to the music, that's a big one. You know, Jesus is Just All Right. You might have heard that before. But this is a record actually that I bought used. And music used to be produced this way. Used to be made this way. It still is, but though still a much smaller quantity than it used to be. It used to come out on a big record. Oh, let me show you the record itself. Think about your CDs, and some of you kids don't even know what a CD is, but this is a record. 33 1/3 RPM record, 12-inch record. That's how music was produced, and almost everybody listened to music this way. What happened was that the way in which we consumed music changed. We went to cassette, we went to CD, we went to buying MP3s, or now just streaming from a service like Spotify. And some people took their old records and threw them away. And in a way, I'm kind of thankful they did, because buying people's old records is part of why I have a fairly large collection of music today. But it was poor stewardship. If we are stewards, that means if we are people who God entrusts to take care of the things that He's given us, we try to live as much undisposed life as possible. And a lot of things are meant to be thrown away in our culture. And we don't live that way, or at least we're not supposed to. It's really hard in some ways. I mean, sometimes you just, but one of the ways we do that, and instead of buying bottles of water, and maybe your family is doing that right now, instead we have a pitcher in the refrigerator that filters our water. All of this is ways of taking care of the world that God has given us. And some of that is really inconvenient for us, and some of it's not really all that popular, but we're called to do that. So I just want everyone out there who's watching this to make sure that we're all doing enough that we can take care of each other in this time. It doesn't look like it, but wearing this mask can actually be an act of love. It can be. All right, so I have a question. I'm going to take this off now because nobody else is in the room with me. I have a question from a child, and this comes from Easton. Easton asks the question, has anybody ever knocked over the candles in church? And if so, what happened? What was the aftermath of that? Easton loves the church bloopers questions. So go ahead, Easton. Keep shooting them my way. That's fine. That's great. It's important that we learn to laugh at ourselves, sometimes, and to not take ourselves too seriously. So let me think. In my first congregation, somebody once knocked over the Christ candle while they were lighting it. It was probably my second year there, I believe. I was still an intern. I wasn't ordained yet. I was an intern there, and somebody knocked over the Christ candle while they were lighting it, and it kind of went down. Now the good thing is, like on the way down, you know how there's the lights on the candle. The flame is on top. So as the candle fell down, the flame extinguished. And there was just some wax that was on the top there. And the wax kind of flowed over the carpet. But that could be cleaned up. It hardened. We got it cleaned up after a while. And it was really no harm, no foul. And, everybody was very supportive of the young man who did that. Everybody was very supportive and forgiving, as we should be, because it's, when we're doing church leadership positions, especially when we're children, sometimes that can be pretty intimidating. Sometimes that can be kind of scary. So yeah, that happened to me once. I have another story about the baptismal font getting knocked down, but we can talk about that one at a later date. When you do worship in front of people, and when you're a human being, you're bound to make mistakes. God knows that your pastor has made plenty of mistakes, and it's important that we have forgiveness and love for each other, and a little bit of humor in those moments as well, so that we have a spirit of love around it. So that's that. I hope that answers the question. That ends the youth devotion for this week. Thank you very much. Any other kids, if you have any other questions about anything, about church, about the life in the church, about me, about what's going on in my life right now, if you want my opinion on something, just post those comments either at the bottom of this video on YouTube or on Facebook when they're posted, or you can email them to me or have your parents text them to me or whatever. So we'll handle the questions that way. So thank you. I'm glad we had a question this week. So, all righty, take care, everybody. We'll be here. Michelle and I will do our hymns and reflections on Saturday, and then we'll do our worship service on Sunday. God bless.